Hi
One,
guys,
two, three.
and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. We help Muslims and non-Muslims alike to understand and handle Islam in the 21st century. We consider ourselves to be decent human beings, so we condemn categorically any abuse, oppression, misogyny, slavery, violence, anything like that. We do embrace, however, free speech and also criticism, even if it is directed at us, if it is factual and constructive criticism. We focus on Islam exclusively. So if you're curious about anything Islam, you've come to the right place. Now, we don't attack, which is aggressive, destructive, and antagonistic, neither Islam nor Muslims. We ask questions and show facts. We refute false claims and present the reality of Islam, which is political Islam. We inspect, investigate, research, analyze, and then report and critique on Islam, the ideology, not the people. Now, the live stream goes to YouTube and Facebook, and there are three ways that you can participate in this. Either you join us in the live written chat, you can join the panel during the live show, or later on watch and comment the archive. And anyone can join to comment, critique, contribute, or question. This is not a Dawa channel with censorship. Don't go to Patreon, don't go to PayPal. Everything here is free. The way we work is usually we have some news, some Krazy Komments, a segment where we go and read the Quran, and then a discussion on the theme of the month, followed by integrating the live chat, ending with a Hadith of the week. If this is not enough Islam for you, there's still the Discord channel where you can discuss with us without anything being recorded. See you later and enjoy the Gin and Tonic Show. Hello everybody. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. It is Friday. It is the 16th of March. Thank you very much for joining us. Hello, Mr. Rob Speakers. How are you doing?
Good evening, everybody. I'm well, sir. How are you doing?
Yes, as you're coming loud and strong.
Well, okay.
I'm a bit under the weather because my dad's not doing too well, and this is sort of affecting me emotionally. So I'm a little bit not quite right, but it's okay. I'll manage somehow. Now, what is quite funny is you've seen the intro, and what we're getting copyright strikes by Facebook, mind you, from different companies, from India, from South Korea, I don't know, this is quite weird. I don't know how you can get a copyright strike or people talking to each other. It's very strange, but it seems, and it's only on the Gin and Tonic Show. It's nowhere else. It's on none of the other places. It's only on the Gin and Tonic Show. So somebody somehow does not like what we are doing. So it seems that Islam is very fragile and weak and needs help in the form of censorship.
Either somebody has been alerted to it, or it's maybe the Facebook algorithm that's trying to pick something up there. I don't know. Maybe you know more than I do.
Well, no, because the sequence that it gives me is just, on the South Korean one, it's the beginning, the opening trailer, where it's camels, and I've been in touch with Pio, and we looked at this, and it's free footage, so there's no stock, there's no what you call all these funny terms that you need to pay royalty and things like that.
So it's royalty free, right?
No, it's nothing. It's just free. So this is like public domain. And this is why Pio was very careful not to take anything that could be considered, or in any way could be taken as copyright material. I checked it together with him. It's not. So I don't know. Yeah. This seems to be weird, especially since we are not only distributing it on one, but on two different areas, and it's only on the one from the Gin and Tonic Show that this is being flagged, not the other one. So it can't be the Facebook algorithm, because then it would flag both of them, but it's only doing the one. Hello, Nick of Time. How are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Super great.
You're welcome.
Okay. Welcome to the people in the chat. I see there's hundreds of you waiting. What is quite funny is we're living in the post Pine Creek era now, where it seems that he has ruffled so many feathers by, number one, coming across as a nice guy, and then in his critique saying, listen, I had no intention of changing my outlook or anything. I just came there to ask some questions, where for some reason people, because he was very polite, took this as being he's gullible, which he's not. So now they're disappointed that he's not gullible. They're disappointed that he says, no, I'm not going to be a Muslim. That was not my intention, and I did not pretend that I was going to be a Muslim either. But his demeanor, his polite demeanor, was mistaken as being gullible, or I don't know what you want to call it, easily to be influenced. And so now they're disappointed that he's not. So. And now I believe that he's actually doing another one. So this is going to continue. So, and I'm very happy about this, that we are getting to a stage where we are starting discussions where the Muslims are realizing that they are not getting anywhere with their stupidity, with their silly claims, with all the reckless stuff that they are bringing up. And there's two things I want to mention here. Number one, we non-Muslims, and it doesn't matter who it is, and yes, we're missing Thunderous. He's just saying that he doesn't want to, crowd the panel too much. So he's doing well, and blah, 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 and he's still enjoying the show, and he will pop in if he finds something interesting. What we do, we have people here who are Muslims, who are Christians, who are Sikhs, who are Hindus, who are and atheists, okay? So we are not only people who are out to get Islam. We are here looking at Islam from different perspectives. Now, the main thing that people must, and they must understand this, we react. So I don't get up in the morning, how can I attack Islam today? I do not even consider Islam until somebody brings to my attention some stupid or silly or ridiculous claim. If there were no claims made by Muslims, by Islam, by anything, I wouldn't give two hoots about it. And I think this is the case with most people. If you were just quietly doing your thing and worshipping how you want and not going out in the public and making claims, nobody would care. So what we do is we react. Now, the second thing is we do not have arguments. What we do is we use what we hear, we analyze this, and then we come back with arguments why what we hear, why the claims that we hear are silly or stupid or false or whatever the case may be. So this is a reaction to a claim or to an action by somebody else. And it's not an argument that we fabricate, but it is an argument that we formulate based on the claims presented to us. And those are the two things people must understand. Because I hear this again and again that, I'm just going on these streams to propagate the Gin and Tonic show so that people come here so that we get a higher viewership. I don't care about that. I'm prepared to talk to people on a neutral channel. I'm prepared to talk to people anywhere, it doesn't matter where, just as long as I can have a dialogue and not after 5 words that I'm being interrupted, what is happening at the moment. So we had the other day, Rob and I went through a video where Hamza Swartzes was speaking for over 15 minutes. Total, utter nonsense for 15 minutes. And I'm interrupted after 15 seconds. So there's a discrepancy.
I think that's the
there.
problem with those sort of streams, right? It's a case of the person going on, because there's only one of them and 4 or 5 Muslims. They only get to say a very small amount. Then you get a response from one Muslim. Then the others jump in. So by the time you've had 10 minutes sometimes of multiple Muslims saying things. Obviously, you can't rebut that. They're not going to give you the time to do so. So it's these sort of streams are not there to have, unless you can go on and say, hey, I'd like to speak to this person or that person. Is that okay? Can I do that with that particular person? Right? If you could do that, maybe. But if you don't sort of go with that intention, and they could, of course, just deny it, then you're just going to get sort of steamrolled and people are going to talk over you and so forth. So it's not about having a fair place to have a conversation.
Stop.
I think what happened here, though. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, you got to realize the difference between intelligent people and other intelligent people, because most of the people, like in many places, you can see on either side, there's people who always write in the comments, so and so got destroyed with facts and logic, and I think, especially on a lot of Dava channels, that's exactly what they're looking to write, and they're just trying to get those kind of clickbait videos saying, Stops got destroyed with facts and logic by Mohammed Hijab, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, these guys just make these vacuous claims, right? And if you ask them, what exactly was this destroyed and why do you think that that's the case, you just don't get a response, right? That's the quickest two questions to ask anybody, especially the Muslims, to see whether they actually paid attention, whether there's something they can articulate and whether they can defend it. It's one thing to parrot back something, which they're quite good at, but then it's a very different thing to actually think about what it is and why you believe it, right? So, and when you try that, of course, you don't get a particularly good response.
And I got both of these. I don't know whether Nick saw them the same way that I just got them, because I was notified today of exactly this, that I got destroyed by, I can't remember who. And I said, well, then show me where. Show me how I got destroyed. Interesting. Could be, but show me where.
Yeah, I actually had a friend who was a bit too nervous to come on and chat, but was watching the stream. And he was talking to me about how he said it's not true, and he was like, oh, your science is completely wrong in some of the points that I brought up in some of my shows. So I said, okay, I'm here to listen. If you can prove any of these wrong, you'll be placed as the director of the World Health Organization. So please tell me what exactly in these am I misinterpreting? And at that point, not a single answer came out. So I just believe channels that are encouraging dialogue, I think, are extremely rare, and most places are just taking the cheat way out of just destroying with facts and logic. And the moment if you say something intelligent, it breaks their entire pillar of sand.
That's the problem. The same way as I don't understand why there are so many people now saying, congratulations on Ramadan, or have a good Ramadan or something. And I think to myself, why are they doing that? I mean, I posted something on Facebook where I said, well, to all those people who are following all these rules, the fasting and all these other abstinence rules, and I just have one comment. Why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, and I got to ask them as well. I've been intermittent fasting for how many years? I've been fasting for how many years, and I never advertised the fact that I intermittent fast for the past 4 years. And now I see, I'm fasting this, I'm fasting that, and I'm like, fasting isn't that hard. Intermittent fasting is not that hard. You don't need to be advertising this stuff.
It depends what you call fasting. The thing is that Rob always does. I mean, I think I'm not spilling a secret here that you do this intermittent thing once a year. And
I'm doing it now as it happens, 7 days.
Oh, okay. Well, happy
but I'm doing it with
then.
juices, right? So mine is very different. Mine is I'm having 4 juices every 3 hours, but it's stuff from a particular guy that puts it together. It's like a plan for 7 days. It helps you feel better. You obviously lose weight as well, and I'm walking twice a day at the moment. So there's no solid food. It's all proper juices, but it's not like orange juice and pineapple. It's much better stuff that's been kind of engineered to be put together. So I'm on what about today? Day 3. I've got 4 more days to go. Feeling a little bit tireder today, but normally by day 4 and 5, I'm feeling amazing. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wow. Well, I do this with water flavored with hops and barley and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I suppose the difference for me is, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that liquid bread that stops drinks once in a while, if you get enough of them, you don't even have to push the wall moves by itself.
I guess the difference for me is it's shipped to you in bottles that are frozen. You've got day 1, day 2, day 3, and you've got the 4 bottles you drink, and then you take wheatgrass in the morning, so a little slip of that. And so you've got a timing. I've got a little, this is all shipped to you. Obviously, you pay for it, but it saves you having to go and get all the ingredients, put them all together, put them into different bottles and stuff like that. And I'm going, you know what? I just need to do it's a cleanse, really. It's not a fast because I am drinking 3-4 times a day, plus water, of course. So it's all liquid. So it's more of a juicing. What would you call it? Not a fast. I wouldn't call it a fast.
Cleanse.
It's more of a cleanse. Yeah, a cleanse. It cleanses the body out, right?
I don't know.
And I noticed it. Right? Yeah.
I don't know if it's a cleanse. I don't know. I'm very skeptical when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we've done the fasting. I mean, we've been through all the different pillars, and we've exposed how silly this fasting is. It only works on a flat earth. It only works in a specific area, specific time, specific this and here and there and there, and it's quite silly. Okay, if somebody wants to have sex during the day, well, why the hell not? And I don't know. This is quite silly. Anyway, we're talking about, and here's one thing. Here's my inspirational poster for today, and this is Allah is enough for me. Well, number one, this is not true. This is not true, because Muslims cannot really survive without Muhammad. So Allah is not enough for me. And most of Muslims are not even following what their God is saying and what Muhammad is saying, but actually what the scholars are saying, what Muhammad and God are saying. This is the funny thing. So then propagating this in this way, Allah is enough for me, and this is really what they say all the time. There is this tawheed, this oneness of God, and this is the most wonderful. Well, then why is it not enough for you? You know, they're being hypocritical here. This is quite funny.
And considering, like, not a lot of them can do their own taxes, I'm pretty sure they also need their accountant.
That's on top of it. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, I thought this is
inheritance, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like you can wake me from a drunken stupor, and I can still name 10 people that they would need more than Allah.
Rob, what are the 3 steps that you have identified now?
Oh, so
or do you want to share this?
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I mean, bring your best Muslim in the world. I think the inheritance era is irrefutable, unless you don't accept one of these things. So I before I've done this now in Discord this week or last week, I think last week, whenever, and I get them to write the numbers. But there's 3 clarifying questions. So I said to a guy this week, I could make you ex-Muslim in under 10 minutes. Now I sort of underestimated the time taken. He'd never heard this, and of course he was battling to add together 1/6 and 1/6. So I bet maybe I should say within an hour. That would probably be more charitable. But what I did do is, as I asked 3 questions, I say, is the Quran inerrant? It contains no errors, right? Inerrant meaning no errors. Yes, it is. Do you agree that any modification of the Quran is forbidden? Yep, bid'ah is forbidden. And 3, do you take, and I can't remember the name, maybe you guys can tell me, but do you take it that the earliest caliphs are the most authoritative after Muhammad, especially if it wasn't something that came up during Muhammad's life? And as far as I can
they
tell,
are the rightly guided ones. That's the only expression
Correct.
that you get.
But I thought there was another term, as you get closer to Muhammad, I just can't think of it. Like the closer you are to Muhammad, the more kind of rightly guided you are. But I thought there was a specific name
I think
for
it's
it.
apostle.
Mustafa. Well, no, Mustafa came up with another term, but that is not the same. You are looking for rightly guided, Kailas.
Okay, I'll just say rightly guided. Well, that's assuming, I don't know, maybe the Shias might not accept Umar al-Khattab, but certainly all the Sunnis would. And so I asked that question, if it were one of the rightly guided caliphs and they made a ruling, is that authoritative? And so hopefully they would say yes to that, which means that all they can appeal to then is awal, because that eliminates all the other attempted options that don't work anyway, but it doesn't take us down other rabbit holes. They can only deal with that. So if they say yes to all 3 of those, then we go into the inheritance era. And what I specifically do now is I get them to write the numbers. So what I did with this fella this week, I said, okay, there's 1,000 gold coins. How many, bring out your calculator. So the daughters get 2/3. How much is that? And that's 667. Great. How much is the wife and husband? So that's 1/6 each. That's 166.
Mother and father.
Mother and father. Sorry, mother and father. Yeah, 166 each. And so there we go. But okay, now you still got to do the wife, right? So then the wife now doesn't have anything. So this guy went off and he was still trying to work those numbers out. He said, "Hang on a moment, I've got to read the tafsir." He says to me before he does anything. Right, so I said to him, the tafsir won't help you with this, because of course they're programmed to do this, right? If I don't understand something, let me go to somebody, quote unquote, of knowledge.
Allah
That's
is
what's
enough.
so beautiful about this, right? You don't need the tafsir for this. The tafsir will say exactly what the verse says anyway. So I just kept quiet. I'm not going to say you can't do it, right? So I let him do that. And at the end, there was nothing that the tafsir said that didn't help, but that was his first go-to. And then he tried to do this, but he didn't do the numbers, or he started to do the numbers, but we never got past 1/6 plus 1/6. Okay, so he agreed that's a third. Then he eventually had to go pray. So we never, unfortunately, got to the end of it. And this particular guy hasn't been back there again, unfortunately. But if he does, I will see if we can finish it. But I think those 3 questions are key because it also eliminates them trying to go down other rabbit holes. But the important thing at the end of the day is to get them to give you a number. Compare that number with what the Quran says, and they will be different. Guaranteed they will be different.
Yeah.
And then the killer question that I asked them, which number should I accept? And do you know how many Muslims will dodge that question? Almost all of them. I think only one person since I've started to ask which number should I accept, has actually given an answer. The rest will not answer that question directly.
Because they realize something is wrong. Yeah. But they can't admit it. This is the problem.
Yes, once it gets down to the numbers, right, and the 2 numbers don't match each other, then all of the normal apologetics, all the things they've heard and been told what to do in certain circumstances when they're not sure, they don't understand or whatever, they don't work here. And that's the beauty of this, right? You can't appeal to, it's a wrong translation. You've got to understand in Arabic. Let's go speak to the scholars or whatever the case is. You can speak to the scholars, but now that the scholars have made something and it differs from the Quran, now you're stuck. What do you do now, right? And they've tried to appeal to, I think it's Surah 484, I think, something like that, about how you can appeal to other people. I've got no problem with appealing to other people, but I've got a problem with it. Well, I have got a problem with it, but I've got more of a problem when what the other people say contradicts the Quran.
Exactly.
So,
and you can't get out of that.
Yeah, if I smelt that, I would have ran quickly, because if a guy who's selling his product doesn't know what his product is about, that smells like bullshit to me.
But I it's an open challenge to any Muslim on planet Earth. The one that thinks they've got an answer to this, we'll ask the questions, we'll go through it, and I've got a challenge for Muslims. I will, if you can reconcile this in such a way that it does not conflict with the Quran, and you can make sense of it such that it doesn't have a mathematical error, I will acknowledge publicly that this is no longer an error. I will never bring it up again. Conversely, if you take the challenge on and you cannot reconcile it, then you must agree that there's an error in the Quran and you should become ex-Muslim. Let's see how many Muslims, and I tried this on Discord. You know how many would prepare to take that challenge up? None. Zero.
I know.
Maybe there is a
built an
brave Muslim
obstacle
out
that
there.
is too high. No, it's too high of an obstacle for their brains. No, it can't do that. It will not work. They're too. You see, this is the problem. This is why I say Islam is so frail and so weak, and that's the only thing they have. They only have either violence or censorship. That's the only way that they can protect their Islam. That's it. It's so weak. And it was funny because Abdullah Samir actually said he said, no, I don't agree with you. I think it's very strong. I said, no, it is incredibly weak. And we actually got into an argument about this, which prompted me to make a video to go and say, look, these are the factors why I think, and I collected all of them and just I just put them all down. This is why Islam is so weak. Okay, guys, we're talking about Muhammad. This is what the theme of the month is. We've been through a couple of things, so we're first going to go through the news. As I said in the trailer, we're going to go through some news. We're going to go through some Krazy Komments. We're going to do the Koran Korner a little bit. I actually forgot what. Okay, we'll see. Then we'll do the theme of the month, which is Muhammad, and then we do the Hadith. So, as I've got 1, 2, 3 items of news. One is that on the 13th of April, in other words, on Tuesday, a German newspaper opened with a Muslim who stabbed 2 people. He says the areas in which Islam does not rule are war zones. And if German authorities take notice of his statement at all, it will be only to dismiss it as extremist. Those authorities don't know and don't care that traditional mainstream Islamic theology, which has never been reformed or repudiated by any major Islamic authorities, divides the world between the Dar al-Islam, the house of Islam, and Dar al-Harb, the house of war. And this pious young Abdullah is explaining that his stabbings were justified according to Islam because they took place in Dar al-Harb. And the perpetrator, who was on the way to God, and you saw the air quotes here, right? Openly regretted that both victims had not died in the bloodbath. So that's all that you're getting from him. Next thing is, this is just a quickie. Actually, I need to do this. How do I get this into the stream? I need to open this here, and I can only do this for YouTube, because this is a Qibla tool. All right, so this is something that, and by the way, I'm writing here as good old Fred. The Qibla tool shows you in what direction the various Qiblas in history were directed. Now, what you can do is you can go either in through country or era or whatever, and you will see that this is a huge, big mess. Now, the same thing applies, as we've heard so many times. All these claims, the Quran is protected, guarded, and has never been changed. Not one item has been modified or updated. The same is true of the Qibla, where all the Qiblas in the beginning were, I don't know, pointing towards Jerusalem or something, and then changed to Mecca, and they all point to Mecca. Well, this is not true. This is not true. We've just had a message from Indonesia where they admitted that a lot of their Qiblas were actually pointing towards East Africa. So they have to adjust it further to the north. And this Qibla tool, I put the link of in the chat just now, shows you where these Qiblas are pointing. And you will see that, yes, Dan Gibson is correct in a lot of things, because in the early days, a lot of them are pointing in the direction of Petra. Not all of them, you see, this is the problem. But a lot of them are. So I find this fascinating, that this is a very, very easy way. If you want to refute a claim like this, that all you have to do, you go in here, you say, okay, show me which mosque are you talking about. You enter the name of the mosque, and boof, it will show you exactly where it's pointing, and you can make it a quick screenshot, put it up on the share, and you can show people, nope, it's not pointing towards Mecca, because very few mosques are actually pointing towards Mecca. And one of the earliest ones is actually down in Yemen, doesn't point there. Egypt doesn't point to Mecca. In Basra, doesn't point to Mecca. All these very, very early mosques do not point to Mecca. So I don't know what the hell people are doing. If it's so simple, it's so easy to refute them. But then people are saying, well, I cannot use modern tools to do that, because the coordinates today are very different than the coordinates in those days. I don't know if you remember the crazy comment from last week where somebody did this. Then we have BBC News. A video is being obtained among Afghan users of social networks that shows a group of men wearing local clothes, and among them gunmen are also seen, and they are whipping a woman in the presence of a crowd. Now, Afghanistan at the moment is in the news again, because President Biden of the US says he is going to take out all the US troops, and maybe then all the other NATO armies are going to follow, because you cannot keep them there indefinitely. You cannot run a country remotely and protect it from its own terrorists. And I know that Abbas will not say so, but the Taliban are a terrorist organization. And we got to face it. And that is what is happening. And you cannot have the rest of the world keep a presence there and protect Afghanistan from those terrorists. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know.
I actually saw that, by the way. Interesting that you mentioned Abbas. I actually saw that clip again recently. I don't remember where I saw it, where he called into LBC and Majid Nawaz was on, and he asked him, "Will you condemn ISIS?" And he said no. And Nawaz.
Taliban.
Sorry, was it the Taliban? I thought it was ISIS. Maybe it was the Taliban. Oh, here it is. I've actually got it. Do you want me to quickly share it?
Yeah, sure. Because I was just looking for it now.
Oh, I've still got it here. 1 second. Let me just...
Because I made a 5-second excerpt of this whole thing.
This is just a side note, but hey, video file. Here we go. This is new, which is cool. Here we go. This video uses... your browser won't support it. Wonderful. Okay. I'll just share
So
screen.
I need to look for it?
No, I've got a... Oh, yes, then you will, because this way... I can't share it... I've got it here, but unless I convert it or something, never mind.
And I can't remember where I put it after I sent it to you.
All right, well, I'll do a conversion in the background here, and I'll convert it because it's in like the higher quality codec or whatever, and it doesn't like it. So I'll do a quick conversion here and then see if that'll play.
Because I can't even remember whether I put it into it's because I have a repository, just what you said, but I'm not sure if I put it in there or not.
Yeah,
no, of course I didn't. So I don't know where I left it now. It could be that I've actually left it in the gin and tonic where I put it before I sent it to you, because this is where I keep things which I'm doing temporarily. Just so
let's
that I know
carry
where
on,
they
Stops.
are.
I can do a conversion on this one quickly, and we can then play it. So
Give me one last chance to see if I've got it here. Gin and tonic, pics, videos,
okay, here we go.
Pine Creek. I've got it here.
You got it?
So yeah, video.
Yeah, no, I just can't believe that he would actually like say, oh, actually not condemn what they're doing over there. Actually agrees with them.
Here we go.
Clear sentence. Can you accept my statement and repeat it after me? The Taliban were an evil terrorist organization.
I'm not going to repeat that.
Thank you so much, sir. You have a good day. Do call in again, by the way. It's such wonderful entertainment speaking to people like you.
This is so funny. Okay. Anyway, so he refuses to condemn the Taliban, and unfortunately, the Taliban are coming back. You see, this is the problem. It's so sad, and this is what they're showing here, that the Afghan users of social networks have protested against the whipping of this woman by posting this video. And based on what is seen in the video, this woman is whipped by two men, about 40 hits. Can you believe it? I mean, that is so brutal. That I mean, we're in the 21st century, and in Afghanistan, women are being publicly whipped, and she's wearing a blue burqa, completely covered, and she's just no. This is so sad. This is so sad. Anyway, what is next? We have arrived at Krazy Komments. So what I need to do is need to load the Krazy Komments. Here we go. So number one. Now remember, these are all the Pine Creek ones. Okay, so this is quite weird. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it to absolute bits. That one person can really rattle them so much. This is wonderful. So this is SJ. We've seen comments by him before. I mean, okay, no comment. He thinks he's done so well in Hamza's Den. Lol. Now he boosts his ego by debating lay Muslims that have been increasingly visiting his channel since Hamza's Den. He is also very insecure about his own worldview. Now, notice all that this guy manages is ad hominem. This is not in any way addressing the arguments, not addressing the questions that he's asking, only going towards the person, his ego. So all this guy is doing is saying, well, there's something wrong with the person and therefore his arguments are wrong. Well, they're not. You're an idiot to think that. But what worries me more is that 41 people have already said, yeah, I like that. And that is the funny thing, that Muslims are too lazy to think. They are too lazy to read this and say, yeah, but hang on, why is he saying this? Why is he saying that he is boosting his ego? He's not. He's just asking the same bloody questions to people and saying, okay, can you answer this, yes or no? And they can't. So that's all. This is like Rob was saying with the inheritance era. It's irrefutable. Is Rob boosting his ego? No. As I said in the beginning, we are reacting to claims. The claim is that the Quran is, number one, irrefutable and contains not a single error. Well, if those two claims are correct, then the inheritance should work out in the distribution that it is laid out in the Quran. Fact is, it doesn't. So there's something wrong here. And that is what we need to
notice
consider.
Yeah, as you say, Stops, this is all their subjective, personal view or opinion about something.
Same thing here. And this is edited. Subhanallah, this was a devastating refutation.
Whose was? Presumably.
Yusuf Ponders refuted with two other guys, with the Meta something and some other guy, I can't remember who.
Okay,
there's this Kevin, what's his name? Asadullah or Dullah or something.
Yeah.
And they provided a devastating refutation. They didn't. They did not do that. They did not manage to answer any single question. Now, I must admit, I haven't listened to the whole video. I just, popped in a couple of minutes here and there. But it was not. It was just, saying, well, he didn't really know, and he was false, and listen to what he said afterwards. Again, just going for the person, not addressing the arguments at all. So this is silly.
I didn't
then
see
you have
that,
this
actually,
guy.
but Pine Creek is live at the moment, actually, or was live. I don't know if he still is, because we're on here now. But he was live, and he was responding to their response of him. And he
Yeah,
had like 500 people
that should
on.
be interesting. So I'm going to watch both of those. So I need to find time somehow. Another one, perhaps one of the problems some atheists have is that they still have their Christian glasses on and lump all other religions into the same pot. Alhamdulillah for this beautiful deen. That's how silly this is. I mean, he gives himself the name Hom Tanks. I also automatically said Tom Hanks. Hom Tanks, and thinks this is incredibly clever. And then he makes this really inane comment here. Some atheists they still have their Christian glasses on.
Stop. I got a really nice question here. Like, it's genuinely concerning. Do I have Christian glasses on?
I don't know.
He said some atheists, though, but he said some atheists. But what is it that they, quote unquote, have their Christian? So what is it about Christianity that does not apply to Islam that Pine Creek brought up?
That is the question. Exactly. That's what I was going to say now, because this is a fallacy that they're doing. That they're saying, well, if you're looking at it through Christian glasses, then everything looks different. No, it doesn't. You have to concentrate on what the argument actually was, or what the question actually was, and then it's quite silly. This guy says, very good stream. He definitely wasn't expecting these responses. We are not Christians. Our tradition is rich. We memorize 1,000 of verses in ancient Arabic, dozens of narrations. He can't even name the basic 6 tenets of faith. My God.
Yeah, this is kind of like a fallacy. I don't know what you'd call this. It's almost like a fallacy of not having knowledge in the sense of, like, if somebody doesn't know everything or even the basics of your worldview, whatever the case is, they can still critique a particular topic or subtopic or whatever the case is, or ask questions or attempt to show some inconsistency. And they don't need to know the whole thing unless you can point to something that they don't know that answers their question, in which case then you could say, okay, you didn't know this, here's something that you've not read or not understood or whatever, and that answers your question. But they can critique separate things, and this idea that you've got to understand everything or a lot of things or whatever the case is in order to critique Islam is of course ridiculous, because if that were the case, then that would mean that the majority, if not almost every Muslim on earth, wouldn't be able to critique atheism or Christianity or any other world, because they're not experts in those. So I think it's a bit silly to suggest that, to make it seem as if he's not well versed in that. That's quite true, but he's better versed in Christianity, and he's an atheist, than you are in Christianity. So by that light, you should not be saying anything about Christianity. So it's just it's a very poor argument.
But the thing is, all he did is he said, well, hang on, do you believe some of the things in the Old Testament? Do you believe the flood, local or global or whatever the case may be? Now, if you have a God which you consider to be benevolent, even a loving God, but definitely merciful, is this the case? Yes, okay. Well, if you have that, then can you tell me what you would suggest to this God? Would you poof the people straight into heaven, or would you let them drown? That is the only question. And they cannot answer this without showing that there is a huge mistake in those, I don't know if you want to call them premises, or in the description, the attributes. They don't match. You cannot be all merciful and at the same time allow the suffering by drowning somebody over a couple of hours. That doesn't go together. And it doesn't matter whether it's only 2 hours as opposed to 20 gazillion years in heaven. That doesn't matter. So if you can't answer the question, well, then admit, yeah, this is a problem. We need to think about it. We need to come to an agreement here. This is not at a glance or whatever that seems to merge or match or whatever. And there you go. That's all. Just reform it. This guy the same. He keeps saying in the chat, and I don't really like people who use Arab names, because if you reply to them, then if for some reason the browser switches to writing from right to left, and because the browser thinks it's so clever, and it's quite difficult to answer them. So he keeps saying in the chat, oh, I didn't say this, I didn't say that. Dude, actions speak louder than words. If you're being discriminatory towards a minority, for example, and get called out for it, you can't get away by just saying, I didn't say I was racist. If you're being condescending, then we can infer from your behavior that what you think of that person. That's how things work. I don't know, IRL, in real life, probably. Well, this is an idiot, because if somebody is misrepresenting me, then I will say I didn't say this. And this is what I hear again and again and again, especially Hamza does that, Hamza Redbeard, or Hamza Sources as well. I mean, he misrepresents like crazy. If you say, I don't believe something, then he says, aha, that means you believe that. No, I just don't believe the one. That doesn't mean I believe the other. But they will misrepresent you and say, well, that's what you said. And then you have to tell them, no, that's not what I said. And then you get exactly this situation. So it's quite weird how these people can't understand that not saying something does not mean that you're saying something else. I don't know, it's quite simple for me, but they can't seem to get their heads around that. And then suddenly say, I was a racist. Okay, and the last one that I have is in Hamza's Dem. Pine Creek did mention the illness suffered by a family member. I think disbelieving in God stems from that experience. It's emotional. Now, the funny thing is, Pine Creek did say that his family members were quite religious, I think.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is nonsensical, and even if somebody was not. Now, my mum, my dad, they were like devout Christians. My brother, he studied theology. And what? They died and suffered and blah, blah, blah. And for my mother, it was actually a relief that she died in the end. And she was the most devout Christian that you can imagine. So what does that have to do with believing in a God? It doesn't do anything. It's emotional for anybody and everybody, whether you're an atheist or a Hindu or a Sikh or a Rastafarian or whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so there you go. That was the Krazy Komments. Next on the...
It's puzzling. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before.
So let's just quickly take a look where we ended up last week. If I go and I need to go to the end of this one. We went up to sentence number 20, so we'll just do a couple. We're at 21:43, so we should be okay. So I'm going to share the window so that you can see what we're looking at. Now, I don't know if I still need to explain this. I'm taking a sentence from the Quran. This is from chapter 10, sentence number 21. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the sentence and I am taking what I understand to be the essence of this sentence. So it could be that this is just one sentence or two or three or four. This could be several lines. But for me, the essence is exactly this, what I understand. And this is what I'm putting here. So sentence number 21 in chapter 10 for me says, our messengers and swift planning allows for mercy. This is just a claim. This is something that this God writes in this Quran. Our messengers and swift planning allows for mercy. It doesn't say how. It doesn't say what about this. Oh, brilliant. And Rob has just brought this up. Exactly. So here you can see that, like if I say the Sahih International, when we give the people a taste of mercy after well, adversity has touched them, wants to conspire against our verses. Say Allah is swifter in strategy. Indeed, our messengers record what you conspire. So what I understand there is our messengers and swift planning allows for mercy. So, this is 2 lines in the original. It's just a short sentence in my eyes here.
Yep.
Then sentence 21 says, He enables you to travel. And when in trouble, like being surrounded by waves, they cry out for Allah. Now, this doesn't make sense. Okay, so again, what you need to do is, and here this is thank you, Rob. This is 3 long lines, and they don't make sense. So what you need to do is you need to go to the tafsir, you need to go to the hadith, you need to go and read up and what do people comment on this, and what is the possible context, and what is it. And you find differing opinions on what this could mean. So if you travel, it doesn't automatically mean that you are in a ship or a boat or something. But if you are like being surrounded by waves, why would anybody cry out for Allah? Just because you're being surrounded by waves. I think on an ocean, you are like surrounded by a lot of waves. So there's no reason to shout out to Allah. So this is quite
Well,
funny.
it's obviously they fear for their lives, presumably, and they're praying for, deliverance or something like
Exactly,
that. The
but you
question
don't
is,
know
how
why.
well does that work? And did that stop at some point? Did it work? Do we know if it worked for anybody? And if it did, when did it suddenly stop?
And just because it's a stormy wind, why would you cry out for Allah? I don't know. Now,
Probably out of
one
fear.
thing. Yeah, but it's just a bit. I mean, this is what the boats are built for. Now, one thing that I want to point out here is that it says He enables you to travel, and then for Allah. In other words, the He, you, they. This is a shift in all the different terms. So it is He who enables you, and then suddenly changes to supplicating Allah. And then it enables you to travel, and then they shout out. So the grammar here is atrocious. How this is being, switched between plural and singular, and between a pronoun and the actual name. So this is constantly switching around. So this is a really disjointed sentence, which on top of everything else doesn't really make sense as such. So this is quite weird. So number 23 says, but when He saves them, they rebel. We will inform you of what you did. Why would you inform the people of what they know what they did? Why do you need to inform them what they did? So I don't know. This is quite weird for me. Okay, there you can see the long version. 24 is life is like rain we send down to water plants for food. As if not it had flourished yesterday. We explain the signs for people who reflect. Now, if you reflect on something, you don't. If you have an explanation, you don't need to reflect. Actually, I don't know. This is a weird sentence. Right? This is so funny.
I actually had this underlined from previously, right? This last bit in particular. Thus, to explain in detail the signs for people who give thought. Well, we're all giving thought, and we're not getting. It's not being explained in detail.
And the example, worldly life is but like rain which we have sent down. What the hell does this mean? What is the example of worldly life being like rain? I mean,
being sent down. In other words, he's put life on earth. It's supposed to be, maybe it's metaphorical to say, hey, He planted life on earth, or He sent it down, a bit like He sends rain down. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to say that. Maybe it sounds good to gullible ears. I mean, it's kind of just, again, trying to make Him sound magnanimous or something, as if by this stage you didn't sort of have that idea. But it seems to have returned kind of.
You mean sending down rain for the plants is like sending down life for humans?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Okay. All right, but without life, you're not a human, so what the hell? Anyway, 25 in chapter 10 says, Allah calls peace home and guides whom He wants. Now, okay, I think we've been through this.
Yeah, that
so
one's
many
pretty much the
times.
same.
Do good and you will be rewarded. Do bad and you will be punished. Isn't that wonderful? These are the two sentences I always push on Muslims because they mean that my level of morality is much higher than yours. My level of morality is much higher than that of a Muslim because I do good without expecting reward. I don't do bad because I am not afraid to be punished. So this is what I call, this is my comment here, this is hypocritical morality where good equals reward and bad equals punishment. And it's arbitrary. So how do you know what is good and what is bad? How do you know that beating your wife is bad? You don't, because it is allowed. It is not something that is prohibited in the entire Quran. But there is an example of where it is allowed. So it's not impossible. So keeping slaves, I think, is bad. But is this being punished in the Quran? No, there is no punishment for keeping a slave.
Okay, let me ask you something here. Stops, can you see this part here? And Nick, can you both see this? The recompense of an evil deed is its equivalent. Those are the companions of the fire, so they, humiliation will cover them from Allah. There's no protector. It'll be as if their faces are covered with pieces of night. Those are the companions of the fire. They will abide therein eternally. So what is it that you can possibly do where your evil deed is the recompense, i.e. the punishment, if you like, or the consequence is eternal fire? How is that equivalent to anything you could possibly do on earth?
Okay, is the question, what can you do to somebody else that would be the equivalent of eternal hell?
Well, what this seems to be suggesting is that the recompense, i.e. the punishment or the consequences of an evil deed, is its equivalent. So let's say I stole from somebody, or even if somebody was killed, murdered, right? Those are the companions, and they will abide therein eternally. How is that an equivalent recompense?
I can't think
In fact, whatever it is that you go to hell for, is there something you can go to hell for that is an equivalent recompense that you burn or you burn in fire eternally? In other words, it's an eternal punishment, and that's supposed to be the two sentences above. Somehow that's an equivalent recompense for what, I would ask.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
It's an unequivalent. It's uneven. It's unbalanced recompense. So the evil deed gets a consequence far higher than almost any of us would recommend for almost any deed. Even the worst murderer could serve 50 years or serve the lifetime of whatever the case is, or be killed for the life of, or in worst case scenario, if you had to say, burn in fire for the lifetime of the people that he killed, and then he gets out of fire because he's now served his sentence. But here there is no getting out of it eventually. Kind of shocking,
how is that?
And certainly not equivalent.
How's that merciful?
Well, there you go.
Okay, chapter 10, sentence 28. We will separate those who worshipped us from those who did not. Okay, what does that mean? That sounds ominous. Does that mean, the way that I read it, it means the ones go to hell, the other ones go to hell, heaven and hell?
Yeah, I think so. And they will
This
say
is
to
what
those
I
who
would
associate
imagine.
with others, in your place, you and your partners. Then we will separate them, and their partners will say, you did not used to worship us. On the day, one day we shall gather them all together. Then we shall say to those who joined gods with us, to your place, ye, and those ye joined as partners, we shall separate them, and their partners will say, it was not us that ye worshipped. It sounds like this is just basically saying if you worship other gods, then we're going to separate you.
Yeah.
And obviously you're not going to heaven, kind of in a long-winded way.
And Allah is a witness. Who worshipped whom? Isn't that wonderful? Allah, with all knowledge, with knowledge in advance of everything, now suddenly is a witness for himself. Yeah, this is crazy. Listen to the logical sort of aspect of this. How can you be a witness if you yourself decree something, you know in advance that this is going to happen, and then you are still witnessing whatever you have decreed and what you have already the knowledge of? So silly.
Well, I suppose the other way you could see this is it's supposed to be, so I'm just looking at the corpus here, a witness between us and you that we were of your worship certainly unaware. Or let's just say, Sufficient is Allah as a witness between us and you that you were of your worship unaware. Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Certainly knew nothing about your worship of us. I don't know who the us is, though. So is this the other gods? Or presumably there aren't other gods.
And sentence 30 says everyone will be judged. All right, cool.
Let's just go back here just for one quick second. The disbelievers answer back and say, indeed, you commanded us to worship, at which point the idols respond. How do they respond? Allah sufficeth as a witness between you and us that you were unable to worship. We were ignorant of your worship of us. So this is the idols now throwing you under the bus, presumably. Unaware of your worship, God suffices. God knows that we did not command to you this, and we did not desire that you worship us. So these idols that they were worshipping are now, when Allah comes along, they're gonna throw the people under the bus and say, no, you weren't. We didn't say you should worship us. You did that out of your own. It's your fault.
All right. What we've done is we looked at the facts as presented in the standard narrative. In other words, what Muslims believe what happened about Muhammad. So we are now on the theme of the month, which is Muhammad. We're looking at all the different aspects of Muhammad. So we started with what Muslims believe. Then we went into the role and the consequences of how he progressed as a prophet in Mecca, then as a statesman in Medina, and then as a warlord and pirate in the further continuation of his life. So what we want to do today is we want to look at the worship yesterday, today, and tomorrow. In other words, what is it about the character of Muhammad? What do we know about the acts of morality and the commands that he issues, the legal rules and the claims and reality that we know of Muhammad? And this is something that I think we should be able to discuss. What is it that Muslims believe about Muhammad? Nick, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so for me, I think I got it from a non-Muslim experience, but I essentially think he was like I mentioned last time, a con man, essentially. Like, I forgot that Joseph, I believe his name was, the guy that started Mormonism, had some crazy idea. Muhammad had some crazy idea back in the day that was branched off of either Christianity or Judaism, and then it just sprung, kind of like one of those crazy cult leaders that we got nowadays. That's my honest opinion. That's honestly how it looks like to me.
Okay. Now it's a pity we don't have a Muslim here today. Rob, what do you know about what Muhammad represented in those days? Let's start with those days and then see what we see about this today and how it affects tomorrow. Rob, are you still there? Maybe he's just taking a break. Okay, what we hear about Muhammad is that he is supposed to be loved more than the own family, more than the own wife, more than the own children or parents or anything, because he was such a good guy. And I've just bumped into a video, which is actually a pity I can't share it here, which is made by the Yaqeen Institute, and it says his appearance meeting Muhammad, and it's episode 1. And this actually it's 11 minutes long. It's a little bit too long, but this is exactly somebody who is making Muhammad out to be a regular saint, somebody who says Muhammad was the best possible person. It was already when he was in the womb of his mother that God had special favors for the mother. And then after birth, he was the shepherd, and then the camel herder, and then the merchant. Then he married one of the richest women in Mecca, and then became a tradesman himself, a merchant, and then had to flee to Medina, and then became the warlord. Now, why is it that people tell me that Muhammad, because he was in the Michael Hart list as the number one person who influenced this world or this planet the most, why is it that people say that he is of such, or that he had such high moral standards? What are we talking about there? What are these moral standards, and where do we get them from? Where do we get these claims from?
Yeah, sorry, I stepped away there for a second. I mean, that's one of my sort of more favorite sort of topics when I ask Muslims this, right? Where do they get this from? Obviously, they're getting it from God, but how do they know that it's good? And how do they, because they always say that it's objective. So how do they know it's objective? And how do they know that it's good? And at that point, so far, I mean, I'm looking for more sophisticated Muslims that you can speak to, but the ones that I have spoken to, they just don't have an answer. They don't know how to deal with it. They've heard it a lot, so they repeat what they've heard. But when you start to question it a little bit, there's just they don't have a response that's in any way even remotely worth sort of entertaining as such. I'm looking for something. I mean, I know what the sophisticated Christians say, so I'm kind of prepared for that sort of thing. But these guys don't even get there. So I'm like, what are they? How do they get there? They can assert whatever they like, but how do we establish it's the case? And but here's the thing, right? I've seen them trip up every now and again. So somebody like I think it's Dr. Imran, right? And even I think Redbeard Hamza. But when you ask them why is drinking wrong, they will point to real world consequences. And what they don't realize when they do that is they're now appealing to something outside of God to substantiate why it's wrong. Once they do that, the reason for why it's wrong is no longer coming from God. Because
so no longer based in theology.
Yeah, they wouldn't need to appeal externally. They only appeal externally, hoping that nobody's going to realize, to shore up the idea of, hey, this is bad, right? Let's use drinking, because they often bring that up, right? Look how many people are drunk and how, whatever the case may be. But now you're looking at evidence outside of God. If you said it's good, it's bad because God says so, then the obvious question is, well, how did you establish that that's bad? It could be that that's in fact good. God wants that for some purpose that you are unaware of. And so what they would say is something like, well, we know because X, Y, and Z, but now you're appealing outside of God, right? You're justifying it not by God, but by something outside. So we don't need God. We can say it's bad without having God there at all. And that's the problem that they and Christians have, is how do they establish this?
And I think the other problem that we see, or that there is that there is only one single source. You don't get different sources telling you, I met Muhammad and he was quite an honest guy and he was quite fair because he gave me 2 camels for my 15 sheep or something. We don't have that. We only have one single source, and that is the Hadith and the Sirah. This is the only source for everything that we know about Muhammad. And unfortunately, people are saying, well, he was known as being the honest, the trustworthy, the praised one. Well, he was known. Where do you get this he was known as? It is the Hadith. And they are based on what Muhammad said. So Muhammad said that I was known as the honest one. And Muslims will say he was known as the honest one because Muhammad said so. So because Muhammad said he was honest, then he's known as the honest one. So
just a quick one, Stops, because I haven't seen all the hadiths on that one. Is there nobody else who said it? But even if there was other people who said it, if it was only him, but even if somebody else said, Muhammad is an honest guy, how do we know that that person is correct about that, and that they're not biased and part of his team anyway?
Yeah. Well, you see, this is the point, because the Hadith is all about Muhammad's utterings, sayings, commands, and tacit approvals, and his actions. That is what the Hadith is all about, the narrations of Muhammad. So they all go back to Muhammad. There's nothing else. And the biography, the Sirah, is only about Muhammad. So all we know is that what Muhammad says about Muhammad, and what he tells others, what they then tell others about Muhammad. So there's only one source, and whatever we hear repeated is through him being repeated by others. So what is the point of having this? So if you have only a single source for the Quran, you have a single source for all the narrations in the Hadith and that, how does that work? How can you get an objective view of this person? You can't. If I have only one single source of Napoleon, and that is Napoleon is the greatest, bestest, and so on and so forth, because he will not say Napoleon is an idiot or he failed left, right, and center. The same as Trump manages to say even his biggest failure was his biggest win. He never failed at anything. I mean, that he bankrupted nearly all of his businesses. No, that wasn't the case. So if you believe everything that Trump is saying, he's the greatest person on this planet in the history of mankind. This is what he keeps on saying. And he knows the best words, and he has the best language and the best brain and everything. Come on. And then Hamza says he's not delusional. Of course he is. Okay, so number one, what we know about Muhammad comes from Muhammad. And then the next thing is, what is it about the morality and the commands of Muhammad that makes it of any high moral value? Now, Rob just pointed out the biggest flaw is that we don't get a definition of what is good and bad. We are not told that raping is prohibited. We're not told that that keeping slaves is prohibited. We're not told any of that. The funny thing is, you get told millions of times that raping women is perfectly okay. And then what we hear, that somebody says, well, you need to be kind to women, or the earth beneath the mother's feet is like heaven. Yeah, okay, but it doesn't say anywhere you're not allowed to rape a woman. And this is the funny thing. So Muhammad actually goes and says, listen, guys, I think if you come to me and you say, well, you've got these Arab captives, these Arab women, and they are fine Arab women, this is what he says, and you're coming to me and you're asking me whether you should pull out before having an orgasm so that you don't get the women pregnant. I'm telling you, no, you don't need to do that. Enjoy your orgasm. If you rape the women, you've decided that you're going to have sex with them. Okay, once you've decided, who am I going to say, no, you shouldn't rape women? You should ask them first. And only if they agree and they actually help you along, then you're allowed to have sex with them. But if you have decided that you're going to have sex, well, then you might as well enjoy it. Don't pull out, stay in, enjoy your orgasm. This is what Muhammad said. He said, don't worry about the prices of these women on the market, because Allah will decide which of the women will get pregnant and which ones will not. And this is what we see in, I don't know how many, like 12, 15, I don't know how many hadith, which are all graded as Sahih by Islam scholars. So it's not me making anything up. It's not me saying this is what I think of Muhammad. No, this is me quoting what Muhammad said about raping female slaves, female captives.
I also think that the reason why we can't really the reason why I personally can't follow it is because I can't really do research on him as a person, right? Because I don't know what, other than the basic facts that we know that this guy, Muhammad was a warmongering pedophile that we know of. At the basics, we don't have too much other information about him. Like, let's say Joseph Smith. We know that Joseph Smith was a con man before he had a driver's license, but we can't make that same assessment thoroughly about Muhammad, especially about his ethics.
Yeah, but here I need to step in. I need to say, okay, this thing with the pedophile, I would not do that. Number one, it depends very much on the definition of a pedophile. Number two, the narrations, the hadiths regarding Aisha and her age of 6 at marriage and 9 at sex have been shown to not be reliable. So it could be that they were added later to make a point, to make... you see, what we need to understand about Muhammad is that if he had had an adopted son, he could have been seen, and it's a pity that Mustafa is not here. He would be able to elaborate a bit more on this. If he had had a son, he would have been taken as the heir, and this is why he had to go and what do you call it? If you adopt and you disadopt, no, you cancel the adoption, and you prohibit adoption, subsequent adoptions in the Quran, because the Quran says you are not allowed to do that. A son who is adopted is not to be seen as a son. Because what they did in the beginning, they wanted to show Muhammad as being such a nice guy. So they said, yeah, there you go. You see, he even adopted his son and things like that. But then this would have meant that he would have been the true heir to the throne, which wouldn't have been possible. And also, remember, he married his own son's wife, his own daughter-in-law. So by sort of putting a wall between him and Ali at a later time, it showed that, well, no, he was not really adopted. This was a mistake that Muhammad made. He was not actually allowed to adopt him. And this only became apparent later when it was revealed by his God, who didn't know when he created Muhammad that he was going to marry his own daughter-in-law. So he had to go and change the Quran and then say, well, no, you're not allowed to adopt a son, and you're not, and you are perfectly allowed to marry your own daughter-in-law.
Yeah, and Stops, I got a really stupid question in a sense, but I gotta ask it. Is the lack of morality the reason why they're going and converting people in prisons now?
Well, that's a different story. It's a good point that you're bringing up there, because it is quite, I don't know what you want to call that. It's not uncanny or something. It is quite noticeable that you have a lot of conversions in jail. Now, this is for two reasons. In my eyes, I rationalize it in two different ways. The one way is that if you are a Muslim in jail, you get preferential treatment. Number one, you're a minority. You make a big deal of your religion, so you're getting special food. In other words, you don't eat the normal food, but they need different food for you, which gives you a higher grade of food because it has to be made specially for you. The more important thing, though, that I can sort of relate to is that Islam is quite strict. It gives you a structure. It gives you something to adhere to. It gives you something that you follow, where you know exactly what you're supposed to do, when and where and how. Because Islam regulates your life from A to Z, all the way through, from the moment you open your eyes until you go and you fall asleep in the evening. Every single action in your life is regulated. You are told whom you can have sex with, in what position, in what way, and so on and so forth. It's down to how you enter the toilet, what you need to say, and so on and so forth. And this gives a lot of people, remember Kenny Boma? Now, he has been arrested so many times for stalking, for so many things. And he is taking Islam as a guideline, and it's keeping him out of jail. So he has been a better person in let's say in society due to Islam. That he's a pathological liar and things like that. So that's a different story, okay? But for society, he is better off a Muslim than being the non-Muslim that he was before, because there he was a criminal. So, there you can see that Islam for some people is actually a blessing, because it gives them some sort of a skeleton that they can adhere to, and a very rigid structure which some people need. And this is also with a lot of women. This is also the case, because it tells women, look, you are second class, but you are allowed this and this and this, and they are getting very clear guidelines. But on the other hand, they are being taken care of. Now, from a biological point of view, this makes a lot of sense, because if you look at evolution, the woman is the one who is taking care of the babies, and this is what is happening in Islam. She is the human incubator. She is taking care of the household. She doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to spend money on anything. She is being taken care of. The man is the caretaker of the family, and she just has a very limited scope of responsibility. And for some women, this makes sense. Now, I don't know a lot of women that have this kind of an attitude, but there are a lot of women that I have heard of that actually have this. So
Yeah.
I can't really blame those people if they are that way inclined and they are saying, well, for me, Islam is a blessing and this is a positive aspect of Islam. I'm not shy to say that. So for some people, this is a good thing. They need this God and they need this kind of a environment, and for them it's positive. Okay, I
Yeah,
can't
no, I was
handle
just,
it.
yeah, I was just gonna say like the only people that this cult can appease to is criminals. That's why they have to start preaching.
Yeah, I think we've
Not-
always
not
said, right,
really.
if you require this, then by all means believe it. But I often ask the question of people, who do you think is more morally virtuous? The person who does something because they want to help their fellow human being without any, necessary reward, or the person that does something because they're told to do it, and in fact, if they don't do it, there'll be some negative consequence either in this life or the afterlife. Which is the more morally virtuous person? And I think the answer, it
Yeah.
answers itself, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and I
does.
think that like Majid Nawaz had like a good statement on his radio show about it as well, where he's like, "Okay, is it good to cut off the hands of a thief? Like, is it right?" And the guy's like, "I need to talk to my elders," and he's like, "So you need an elder to tell you whether to chop a person's hands or not? Where's your moral compass, right?"
Yeah. And then, of course, the worst is, well, this serves only as a deterioration, and this is why people... I mean, come on, guys. There's a lot of countries where you have the death penalty for killing somebody. Does it stop anybody from doing that? No. Because they think they're not going to get caught. So this factor of deterioration, I don't think works. I don't think there's any merit in that. So the acts of morality that we see that are being issued by Muhammad are definitely not acts of morality. Now, if he goes and, I mean, this was one of the prime examples that we had on the show, where he says, did you throw out the bedpan? And the guy said, no, I thought it was water and I drank it. He says, no, this was my bedpan and this was my pee. And the guy says, oh my God, did I drink your pee? He says, well, it's going to keep you healthy and it's good for you. I wish you all the best. Come on, what kind of a guy is this who is so full of himself, who says even my pee is beneficial for people? That's crazy. That's really sick. So the things that he says, the things that he does, I always say, Muhammad is a person who raped, who tortured, who enslaved, who killed, who beheaded, who did all sorts of things. He plundered. Which of this is positive today? Now, in those days, he might have been considered, anyone who did this must have been considered a great warlord or hero, somebody who's strong, somebody that you need to submit to, somebody that you follow because he is the strong leader in that.
Yeah, and I also gotta ask as well, like this is honestly something that's been picking my mind as well, like the difference, like if you take person A and person B, who was the biggest scumbag on the planet, killed every person he saw, started wars, raped people, and all that, and then on his deathbed was like, I accept so-and-so as my true Lord and Savior, and he gets sent straight to heaven, or he gets 72 virgins or whatever it is, and then you got person B who helped thousands of people, did so many great things, donated blood, fed puppies, like, and all that, and then just because he didn't read a specific book, he's going to help. That always caught me off guard, especially about someone who eventually started the religion itself, where just because he said something or said some certain, he accepts a certain supernatural power, he's going to heaven, even though he was doing so many criminal activities that should send him to the pits of hell.
Yeah, it's terrible. And I just see my name here. Thinking clearly, you called me troll when you sitting here, listening to a real troll, Islamphobe, like stop spamming. I'm Islamphobe and a troll.
Yeah, nobody can define what Islamophobe is in any coherent way that I will find acceptable. I've asked lots of people. And so this word just gets thrown out as some sort of derogatory comment. It's like saying you're a that's what you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is an Islamophobe and why should I accept that definition? Yeah, and I'll just wait for that, possibly eternally, for somebody to actually give a sufficient and what's the word, substantial response to that.
And I wonder whether he knows what a troll is. I don't think so. Anyway. All right. So, acts of morality. Do we have acts of morality that were performed by Muhammad? Do we have anything that we would consider today as being, yeah, that was quite nice? Is there anything that he did?
Yeah, I mean, something like maybe charity, taking care of parents and so forth. But again, none of these things are exclusive to Islam. So yes, there's, I think we've done a show on it, haven't we? There's definitely things that are good in Islam, but there's nothing uniquely good that is unique to Islam that we would agree is good that is only available in Islam. That's the thing. So anything you could say, well, we can do that. There are people who do that aren't religious. We do that. At least some of us do that some of the time, and we're not religious. So it doesn't take religion to do any of these things. But if you had something that was uniquely, this was the challenge that Christopher Hitchens put forward many years ago, and I don't think it's ever been answered. Name for me, I'll put it in my own words, he's got his way of saying it, but I'll tweak it slightly, which is name for me a moral action taken or done or thought that only a believer could do. In this case, what only a Muslim could do, that is not available to an atheist. And I will tag on to that an atheist would agree is moral, obviously. I wouldn't say it's immoral just to get out of it, but if there was actually something moral that a Muslim could undertake or do or say that was not available to me, I'm going to go, okay, there's something that's unique to Islam. And the corollary of that, which is the opposite of that, is name something that is uniquely bad, that in this case Muslims could do precisely because of their religion, that is not available to me as an atheist. And I think that's not difficult to do.
Yeah. What does he say here? I think I have heard you guys on. I don't know who Veli Mikhail is.
Oh, that's the G Block, where you and I used to pop on once in a while.
Yeah, but that was a year ago.
Yeah, I haven't popped on for a little while. I was on about once last week for a short time.
Okay.
Been on for ages otherwise.
Yeah, I haven't been there because there was nothing really, because there was a time when it was a bit contentious and then it just sort of calmed down. So I didn't, spend too much time there. Anyway, so the acts of morality are far and few between. Yes, there are acts of morality, and yes, I agree. I even include marrying a widow who is 50 or 55, where the husband died in one of the many battles that Muhammad started or was engaged in, let's say it this way around. To marry a woman who is without any means, who is old and doesn't have anybody else who wants to have sex with her, so she's like penniless, and then as an act of charity, go and marry her, give her a house, give her some servants, give her some slaves, look after her. Yeah, sure. That's an act of morality. But then on the other hand, giving her a house with servants and slaves is the opposite. Now, what does Muhammad command, for example? He commands don't touch anything with alcohol, and yet he drinks fermented fruit juice. He goes and commands all women need to go and cover themselves. Why? Because he's jealous that other people might see them. That you cannot be sort of identified as a non-Muslim, so you need to cover yourself so that you're identified as a Muslim so nobody will harass you. Which means, if you now take the opposite, if you are not covered, you are allowed to be harassed because you're not a Muslim. So there's different, commands that are being issued with different types of consequences, and you need to understand what these are, and you need to see that the commands that Muhammad actually utters or offers or just puts on people, most of them are quite silly. I mean, why do you need to know that you need to wash your hands once or twice or thrice, or because he contradicts himself? Why do you need to know that to wipe your bum you need 3 stones, but don't bring dung or something? What is the point of these things? Today you don't use stones anymore. So if he had, why go to this level of detail at all? What is the value of these commands that Muhammad issued allegedly 1,000 years ago or over 1,000 years ago? What kind of value do they represent today? Zero. Now, if we go further and we take Islam in 1,000 years, I don't think it's going to survive the next 100 years, but whatever. Let's say in 100 years, let's say Islam is still around. Is it going to be any better? No, we can see it's collapsing. We can see that the values in Islam, we can see what Muhammad did for Islam is actually a lot worse. The more we go and look at the texts, the more we go and analyze, the more we go and read the Quran, the Sunnah, the more we see that they are not applicable today. And they are going to be even less applicable tomorrow. At least this is what I see. Because if I look at the legal rules that Muhammad came up with, I mean, what is there that we can still apply today? Does anybody have an example?
You mean something that's morally good today that we could implement?
Yes, that would be considered morally as beneficial for today's society.
I mean, we could still appeal to the same things I mentioned, but they were things that have been done, right? Give to charity, take care of your parents, that sort of stuff. But like I say, other communities and non-believers have been doing that for centuries and even before Muhammad came along.
But those are always the same things, yeah. Is there anything else outside of these two things?
Not much, actually.
I mean, we have humble good life. I take it either you're a troll or you're a Muslim. If you're a Muslim, can you show us something that is beneficial in the commands of Muhammad, that is beneficial today, that is good, that we can consider and we can look at this and say, that's very good. That is something that I could go and apply and feel good about today. Mr. Humble Good Life, give us an example. It's a pity that we don't have Smart Cat here today. It would be interesting to have a Muslim here who probably can think of things, because I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's other things we haven't sort of thought of off the top of our head. But, yeah.
Why can't we think of anything? Why can we immediately think of so many things that are wrong, but we can't think of beneficial or benevolent things that Muhammad did? This is quite weird, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, because now it's the first time that I'm actually trying to think of something that, from the top of my head, what was good, what Muhammad did. Was he nice to somebody? Was he like really great to somebody? I mean, we hear a lot about torture, we hear a lot about killing and blah blah blah, and all the battles. But was he really a good person towards somebody?
No. Not that I can think of.
I mean, even Jesus was bad to him. I mean, he was like a piece of dirt towards his mother. Come on. But Muhammad didn't have the mother because she died. Amina died. His father died while he was still in the process of development. And there's actually some controversy. There are some sources which say that Muhammad is not even Abdullah's son. I think that they're trying to push for the divine recreation or reproduction or something very similar to Jesus, because they're trying to get Muhammad closer to Jesus. Okay, come on, please, guys, in the chat, help us out here. Give us something that is... Oh, hang on, here. Here's something. He took care of the orphans in his warm and recreated. Okay? The orphans, his warm and recreated. This is the same point. We always come across the orphans, and we always come across some sentences which are positive towards some individuals or something. Stop lie. Okay, then I'm asking you, tell us something that Muhammad did that is morally good that we can apply today. Go. Tell us something. I'm not saying anything. I'm asking a question. Can you give us something that Muhammad did or commanded that is morally positive that we can go by today? Go. And I'm pretty sure that nothing will come up. Okay, if we look at the legal rules, I mean, Muhammad didn't really do that much in the form of legal rules. He said, well, you should do this, you should do that. So the guy who manumits a slave, for example, if he does this and this, then this is a form of punishment. And this is just something that he said, well, okay, maybe this is a good idea, but this is not a command that he issued or something. Yeah, Muhammad fed a cat. This is a very common thing, this story of Muhammad was so kind that a cat was sleeping on the corner of his robe, so he cut it off in order to not disturb the cat. And then we find out this is fabricated. It's not really true. Maybe he freed a cat. Or fed a cat or freed a cat, I don't know. Muhammad gave people thug life. What? Zakat. Yeah, this is always, you see, we're always running through the same kind of things. It's always the charity and the orphans, and Muhammad made prostitution legal. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I got one point that we can add. It's probably Muhammad made employment better through slavery. I mean, employment opportunities with maids and such.
If you are a sincere human being, you would find many good things what Prophet Muhammad SAW said and did. Okay? Are you a sincere human being? If you are a sincere human being and you are a Muslim, then why don't you tell us one thing that is good what Prophet Muhammad said and did? Just give us one. Give us one example. That's all we're waiting for. That's all I'm asking. Is that asking too much from a Muslim? Ultra says, I've got one. At night, Islam's Prophet closed his eyes and slept at night. Checkmate. True. I can't beat that. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't do anything while he was asleep. That's true. Even when he was asleep, he rode to Jerusalem. He didn't kill anybody there. That's true. Okay, what do we have here? Fed a cat. Was it on the way to raping one of his captives? Oh my God, you are so cruel. Even Ultra, the Islam phobe, would pick 100 good things. Okay, then give us one. You know, I don't quite understand. You're a Muslim and you can't think of anything good that Muhammad did, but you're expecting us to do that? Muhammad forbade Muslims to use farm equipment. What? I've never heard that one before. Hamburger, you tell us, then we'll know. Butterflies and rainbows from there. Muhammad rode on a donkey to Jerusalem. Yeah, it's true, eh? Glad it sounds familiar. Where have I heard that before? There were not so many cats. Clear side, what logo are you using? Do you think you can just sort of hide in here? Come on, man. Give us something better. Good field commander, does that count? Nah, not really. Was he a good field commander? I don't know. There's some stories, united the Arab tribes. Actually, there you got a point. There you got a point. He did do that. Well, it is alleged that he did do that. That the Arab tribes all of a sudden were they stopped, like what Martel did in France. That he did this on the Arab Peninsula. That instead of fighting each other, he united them against the common enemy, which is Romans. Yeah. Okay, if you want to take that, yeah. World's energy by turning off all the brains. Yes. Arabian water looking for assistant using glue slavery. Yeah, guys, come on, give me something real. I'm innocent, yeah. Taught people how to light fires on people's chests. So silly. Yeah, by force. He split the moon. Now that's beneficial. That's something that we can take. He did not split the moon. He asked for a miracle from God, and God split the moon for Muhammad to show people what a great guy he is. So it's funny that it's not only me who cannot think of anything, not even Muslim. I mean, we've got a Muslim here in the chat, and he can't think of anything that Muhammad did that was good. So what do we take as, you know, if we compare the claims and reality now? The claim is that Muhammad was the greatest guy. He was the greatest statesman. He was the greatest prophet. He was the seal of the prophets, the last and final messenger. And now if we go and look at this and we compare this with reality, it's not really looking that good, is it?
I gotta ask, if he was really the last prophet, then why is Joseph Smith still around?
Well, there's others. I mean, Mr. Henderson is also a later prophet. So there's many other prophets. I mean, we know of, how many was it finally? I think 5 other prophets that existed at the same time as Muhammad. And I think we went through some of the stories last time. And we saw that there was competition. So he wasn't the last one. It's just another claim. So you see, if I look at claims and I compare this with reality, I see that it doesn't match. The claim is he was the last and final and everything. And in reality, I see, no, there were others. Yes, and just as Nick has just pointed out, there were others that came after him. So the reality trumps the claims, and the claims turn out to be wrong. And I'm still waiting for our Muslim here to give us something positive that Muhammad did. What does he say? Muhammad proved being illiterate doesn't have to hold you back from misconduct. Okay, he was God's first diversity. I found that discipline. Jesus Christ. Although, of course, we needed to enter it. Okay. Sahih Bukhari. I saw some agricultural equipment that I heard the Prophet saying there is no house in which these equipment. Really? I've never heard of this one. Okay. Wasn't Muhammad, just as a backstory? Yeah, this is something that we found out the last time, that he's really modeled like to fill the gap of Jesus in a certain way. Then Sahih Bukhari, okay. I've never heard of this one. Okay. Muhammad had the best sex parties. Well, I don't know, why is it that we can't think of things that Muhammad did that were actually good? It's actually a good question. The next time somebody says, yeah, Muhammad was number 1 on Michael Hart's list. All right, then tell me something that you did that was good. We have a Muslim comment in capitals. Why don't you know how to switch off the capital? You are snake. You are disgrace, bro. You are kind of person, if you had chose save the life of Dave Smith or Sunni brother Isa Frimprong, you would save Dave. I don't know what the hell this is. Listen, we're waiting for something that Muhammad did that's good. Can't think of anything. Sell out. Raising new
I
taxes.
heard he helped with household chores.
He did?
Yeah.
I've never heard. Actually, I said that a long time ago. I made the public do daily exercises 5 times a day for 5 to 8 minutes, so health-wise it's beneficial. IQ, stupid.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
putting
so, all
a
right.
quote in the private chat as well. You guys can probably pull that up to back check it. But yeah.
What does that say? Oh, Muhammad, I'm only men like you. It has been... Okay, so what does that mean?
So apparently that means that he helped around with household.
Okay. I thought you had servants and slaves and stuff. Well, then you can also say, because I've heard this claim before, that Islam invented hygiene. So the physical hygiene, like taking a bath and washing yourself, this was invented by Islam. They somehow forgot the Roman baths, which were like famous, or the Greeks, and all they forgot all about those. So Muhammad also invented washing hands, and even if you use sand, I mean, it's okay, but you're washing, so that's... Okay, then we have Muhammad made poetry an occupation that was less sissified. You know, Islam is truth. Give us something that Muhammad did or say or commanded that is good, that is beneficial. He discovered the first talking ants. Yeah, this is true. What was that? Muhammad made poetry. Okay, this we had. Thinking clearly, that was Solomon. Okay. Your mom is the truth. Okay. My mom's dead. So.
We're probably getting late, but there is a Muslim that potentially in Discord might want to join us, Stops. But I'm just wondering whether we should leave that for Discord itself.
No, ask him.
Or bring
Ask him if he has something that he can contribute that is good that Muhammad did. Does he know of anything good that Muhammad did that would be considered as being good today? Okay.
You want him to come in or just...
Yeah. Give him the link and tell him, pull in, brother.
We'll see if he wants to come in now. I'm just typing to him now.
Pull in cousin. Did you use that in the South? Pull in cousin. He did not molest camels. Do you know that?
Stops. I usually use the pull-out method, so I'm not used to this pull-in method.
Oh, okay.
No, he can't,
Okay,
he
we
can't
took
join
some
us,
to write
never
on
mind.
that. Humble good life.
He just said he can't join, so maybe he could speak on Discord.
Prophet Muhammad come with one message. I come with one message, oh my God. Oh, he came with the message, oh my God. Yeah, he comes the same way as I do. Brilliant. Now, what is beneficial about this? What is good about La ilaha? I mean, that's good. There's no God. Except God, well, that doesn't make sense, does it? So all your, I mean, after 1 hour of talking about this, a Muslim can only come up with one thing, and that is the claim that there is a God is the only good thing that Muhammad was capable of doing. He did nothing good, nothing, except say there is only one God. That's all that Muhammad managed. And this is what a Muslim can come up with. I mean, what does that tell you? What does that tell you about Islam? All right, then we have, didn't Muhammad stop burying of female babies? No, that's a myth. They always say this was common and blah, 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 and no, it wasn't. There are some areas in India, apparently, where this happened. And he said, I mean, this is something he said, don't kill babies if you're poor. Yeah, okay, great. How do you know? Were you there? Then we have Muhammad to control the wife of a nephew. Who is your Lord? Okay, only drank the camel piss. All praise be to the Lord of the... You know, this is so silly. Come up with one message, helps with group cohesion. Based around group cohesion, yeah. So I mean, the messenger may be the woman who buries alive a newborn girl and the girl who buried alive both will go to hell. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we found something. We found one, and a non-Muslim is telling us that Muhammad is said to have said, don't bury a newborn girl alive. Wow, okay. And he helped in the household. So there's two things. He helped in the household, and he said, no, don't go bury newborn girls. I think there was a hadith about helping the elderly. I'll have a look, okay? Well, even that don't bring out he was supposed to say to others, so it's not even... exactly. You're playing with fire. Humble good life, you're not exactly coming up with great things here. So far, we've only found two things, other than just the orphans and the charity, that Muhammad did that was good. Okay. So what we've established is that we have only one single source that is talking about Muhammad, that says that the miracle that he provided was the Quran, which was not by him but somebody else. That he split the moon, which was not even him, this was somebody else, so there's nothing really there. That he went from being a prophet to statesman to pirate, where being a prophet or a religion, a God that requires prophets, is actually a very silly and weak and totally ridiculous God, because a God that is worth his salt or her salt would be able to communicate to people in a different way so that everybody understands the message. Because at the end of the day, a messenger or a prophet is just a human being. So then why not give all human beings the message instead of bringing individual messengers and prophets to go and propagate the message? If he could do this in bringing this into the brains of the people initially, to have this fitra, which doesn't exist, to actually go and put this into motion and to provide people with the knowledge. They don't do that. So instead we have a prophet who doesn't really commit acts of morality, and what he says is actually immoral. The way that he lives is immoral. What he commands is immoral. The legal rules that he proposes are nonsensical or don't do anything, are not beneficial. So we found that, yes, you have taking care of orphans, yes, giving to charity, which are not unique to Islam anyway. Everybody seems to be doing that. What we do have that is unique is that he helped in the household. Now, there's no man on this planet who has ever helped in the household. So this is unique to Muhammad. And of course, you have the claim, what was it now that we heard now? That he forbade the killing or the burial of alive female babies, which I don't know whether this was even done, whether it was... Anyway, if it was good. And this is now really something that I've not heard from anybody else. I don't know of any other... did Bobby Henderson say this? No. I don't know any other prophet who said, don't bury your baby girls alive.
Yeah, and Stocks, one thing you got to consider is you said immoral. That would be immoral with our current standards. Back then, a lot of his stuff might not have been immoral, right? That just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, but the thing is, slavery is immoral, and it was immoral 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. It's just that it was practiced anyway, but it was still immoral.
Fair enough. Like, I was just thinking, like, yeah, if you, like, I was just trying to do devil's advocate where someone might say, oh, you're holding him accountable to today's standards of morality.
They nowadays there's this word they're throwing around called presentism. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's basically the idea that, we're using our present standard by today's standard to judge Muhammad. And we are doing so, and we're doing so specifically because he's said to be, the moral standard for all time. If it were the case that Muslims made the claim, a lot of, like I say many times, a lot of their problems would disappear if they just said that he was somebody for his time. But if he's a moral example for all times, then we can judge him by today's standards. And the claim of presentism is invalid. It would only be the case if somebody was put forward or there was some reason to judge somebody by our standards today, as in like somebody in the past that didn't have as good a moral, teachings or whatever the case is. But he's in fact said, or it's put to us that he is the example. So this idea is just, not valid.
Yeah, and another thing is, like, they say that he was extremely humble, right? It's like that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when Drax is just walking saying, I too am extremely humble. And like, no one who's actually humble says that he's humble.
Exactly, yeah. Now, was Muhammad a messenger? Well, there was a certain message, yeah, sure. It wasn't very useful. Was he a liar? Absolutely, because the things that he said were known to be wrong, and he said them anyway in order to deceive people. And today, there's a lot of things that Muhammad said we know that are false, that are definitely not true, like the story with the wings of the fly and things like that. So this is definitely not true. Or that the heat of the fever is coming from hell and things like that. That's ridiculous. So was he a deceiver? Absolutely. Was he a madman? Yes. He was totally deluded, and he was completely mad, thinking that what he did, what we saw last time, that he went and killed every critic, everybody who wrote poems or poetry criticizing him, that he had them killed. You must be mad to do that. And was he deceived? Well, yeah, because he believed that there was a God who told him that he had to do certain things, and this is what he told others. So he was deceived, and by that he was a deceiver, and he was mad enough to go and believe this and do this. And he also made up stuff by lying to people and giving people the message. So, yeah, those things, yes. If we go one up, was he telling the truth? No. Was he deceived? Yes. Is he delusional? Yes. Is he crazy? Yes. Was he lying? Yes. So, is he mistaken is the question we should be asking. And there we also have to say, yeah, absolutely. Because if he really did exist, if he really said those things, he was definitely wrong. Because he was deluded, because he was crazy, because he was deceived by that. So that is what we have established so far. So if we're going to look at Muhammad, we have to look at what he did at the time, how applicable was it in those days, and how applicable is it today, and how applicable will it be tomorrow. Now, what he did 1,000 years ago, or over 1,000 years ago, well, apparently he was a statesman. Apparently he brought different tribes together. And I like the story where there were different tribes who didn't know who was supposed to put the stone back into the Kaaba. So he took a piece of cloth and had all 4 tribes put it there together. That's a good answer. That's a Solomonic sort of judgment, I would call it. So those things are they're okay. So he was a statesman who brought them together, and then he became a warlord who led people to war, into battle. And there apparently, well, he won everything, even though he didn't. There are stories where he was actually a coward, where he was hiding behind the lines in triple layers of armor and let the other people defend him. So there are conflicting stories here as well. But he was definitely a pirate. He was definitely somebody who stole from people, who just took plunder and then claimed the majority of the loot for himself.
I actually got a quick question. It's slightly related and unrelated at the same time. So I was actually reading up, and this was from a discussion a while back, where the Roman Empire, they didn't actually have proper evidence that Jesus himself existed, because a case that big in Jerusalem at the time would have been recorded, considering how much the Romans themselves wrote. And there's a bunch of other evidences for that. So is there actual proof that this guy existed, just like solid evidence that says Muhammad existed, or is it kind of iffy, same story with Jesus?
Well, this is something we're going to look at next week. And this is what I said already, the 2 questions that we need to ask. Is he mistaken, and did he exist? So was he mistaken? If he existed, yes, definitely. If he existed, he was crazy, delusional, deceived, and a liar and madman. But the question is, did he really exist? Or is it like the case for Moses and Jesus, where there is no evidence? And, well, there is not a shred of evidence that Moses, Jesus, or Muhammad existed. And that's what we're going to be looking at next time. Is there anything else that we need to contribute towards today's topic of Muhammad yesterday, today, and tomorrow? How applicable was he, is he, and will he be? I don't think he will be applicable. He will be applicable less and less. The more we read the Hadith, the more people come out with the different versions and the contents of everything. And there are a lot of people like James and why so religious who have spent a great deal of time. I've stayed away from the Hadiths because for me they are so contradictory and so useless that I have never really paid much attention to them. I prefer to go with the Quran.
And stop. I just gotta say one thing before. Humble Good Life. If you can watch your mouth, please. We've been more than kind to you. That stuff's not nice.
My dad is a coward. Why is my dad a coward? Just because he was affected by Corona? I don't understand. Fuck off, stop spamming. Okay. Can you tell me why? Why do you hate me? What is wrong with you?
I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, but
Even more than
yeah, but I'd love to have like a real answer. You know, did I do something to him, or
you're not going to get one?
Yeah,
so I don't think it's worth chasing a troll.
Okay.
What
all
about
right, guys.
Today?
That is all that I have for today. If we don't have anything else, then let me progress to the hadith of the day. And then we shall see you on Discord after that. Now, this is okay. Now, I don't know if you remember Zakir Naik. I'm a medical doctor. The Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, there are 3 whom Allah will not look at or praise on the day of judgment. and theirs will be a painful punishment. Now we're talking about men's fashion here, okay? The one who wears his garment below his ankles. The one who reminds others of his favors. And the one who sells his product by means of making false earths. So then Muhammad should actually not be looked at or praised on the day of judgment, and he should be like subjected to painful punishment because he sells his product by means of making a false earth. So just because of somebody wearing his pants over his ankles, I mean, why would a God care about things like that? Why would a Muhammad go and say, well, you know, your garment should not be below your ankles? What the hell?
I thought covering up was the real way to go.
Yeah, but your aura, remember, your aura is your dick, okay? And with women is the area, what is it, between the knees and the belly button and the boobs, or something like that. And some actually, it depends on the madhab. There was some Wahhabi or someone who said, no, it's actually the entire body of the woman. That's why she needs to be totally covered, and only one eye is used to stick out or something like that. It's ridiculous. Anyway, this is what is the most important thing that Muhammad tells his people, that your pants shouldn't be below your ankle. That is why Zakir Naik looks so ridiculous, because he does exactly that. I always think in the beginning he ran out of money, so he couldn't afford the pants which go all the way down. But okay, guys, that's it.
Cool.
So this was the Gin and Tonic Show on the 16th of April 2021. We're looking at Muhammad. We're going to be looking at Muhammad next week. And next week we're going to look at his existence and what there is. So if you have any Muslims who are listening who might have something to say to this topic, I would very much love them to come on the program next week and bring your arguments. So that would be great. Thank you very much for the and Ike is just saying, like in the German language, there's an expression that you're wearing these pants because of high water, because if you have a flood or something, then you don't want your pants to get wet, so you lift them up a little bit. So if there's a flood, this is what you do. So yeah. Anyway, we'll see you next week on the Gin and Tonic Show, next Friday, same time, same place, same everything. Thank you very much for the people in the chat. It was quite a nice discussion that I saw going on there. It's a pity that we couldn't find more things that actually Muhammad did that were nice, but there you go. Thank you very much for the panel. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Rob. Any closing remarks? Rob, from you?
All good, man. I think we've covered a few things there, and if you want to join us further, then Discord is the place. You can see the link there, and it's been posted in the chat, and I'll do so again. Until next time, good night.
Yes.
Nick, thank you very much. And what do you have as a closing comment?
I was just saying, take care, guys. See you guys in the Discord, and hopefully we can have a great discussion.
Yep. Cheers, guys. Goodbye from the Gin and